So when they named the movie Star Wars, I think it's fair to say that the intent was to it be a reference to a war taking place in the stars. Um, that's not what the Swedish translation thought. Instead, we call it Stjärnornas krig, which means the War of the Stars, as if it's the stars that are fighting. Swedish people. So, A New Hope. I love A New Hope. It's my favorite of the original trilogy. It didn't used to be, actually. It used to be the one I liked the least because it's very slow paced. It's very boring if you are a kid and you want action. But as an adult, I've really, really grown to like A New Hope. It is still fantastic. It holds up really well. And I think it's interesting how much setup is in this movie, both for the prequels and the sequels. And I mean stuff that like just really nicely fits together with giving sequels and prequels. Especially since prequels wouldn't happen for 22 years. So you have something like when Obi-Wan meets R2D2, R2 says that he belongs to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or at least that's what 3PO translates it as. Obi-Wan doesn't say, I've never seen this droid before. Like, no, he says, I don't recall owning a droid, which is true. He didn't own a droid. He never did, for what we know. So just something minor like that just really nicely was left vague enough to allow for a prequel where R2 and Obi-Wan have met. There are other things that don't end up working, like wouldn't Owen Lars recognize C-3PO? Or at the very least when he hears the name C-3PO be like, wait, that was the droid that worked here on this farm that Anakin built and took with him when I was like, I don't know, teenager. Like, surely that would have happened, right? Uh, so that's one miss in the prequels. They really shouldn't have had C-3PO stay with Shmi there. It didn't make any sense. That caused a problem for them. But yeah, it's just really good. I also really like. See, there's a lot of contradicting information regarding whether or not Darth Vader was always meant to be Luke's father. There are some people who worked on the film who says that wasn't the case. There are some who says that was always the case. There are script revisions to both the original film and Empire that suggest it wasn't and that it was, and it's just like there's no one tells the same story about it. But just watching the film, isolating A New Hope as the only story, I think it's pretty clear that's implied. Like, they talk about Luke's father being dead, and they bring it up as this strange, unspecific death they don't want to talk about, which means there is some twist regarding his death that they're setting up. Now, at first, Uncle Owen is like, "Oh yeah, Obi-Wan died at the same time as your father." So when we meet Obi-Wan, we know that that's a lie. So there's a lie surrounding Luke's father's death. That means there is a secret there. And then Obi-Wan is like, "Oh yeah, I knew your father. We fought together. He was the greatest Star pilot in the galaxy, and he was a Jedi Knight. He was killed by Darth Vader, another Jedi Knight who turned to the dark side." And he didn't really have a need to tell Luke about Darth Vader there. We've already seen Darth Vader and how evil Darth Vader is and all these things, and him having also killed Luke's father, which doesn't really become a factor in Luke's motivation until Empire anyway. Um, that only makes sense to include in that scene if it's as a hint. And the other part of the hint is the fact that he says that Anakin was the greatest star pilot in the galaxy. And what happens at the end? Darth Vader is chasing Luke, who is also quite the pilot, in the Death Star trench. They never mentioned Vader was a pilot, but apparently he's a really good ace pilot. So, that's also a hint. And the fact that, it's just so much there that really points to it already having been an idea somewhere in George Lucas' head that we're going to reveal eventually that Vader is Luke's father. There's also the fact that the word Vader in some languages is similar to father. I think saying a lot of people say it's just it's the German word for father. That's not entirely accurate because it's not pronounced Vader. Yeah, I like that, and at least to me, it really shows how much A New Hope had ideas that could be expanded upon, which actually justifies things like prequels and sequels really well. Um, so yeah, I think it's a really neat film. I don't mind the edits done to it. I watched the Blu-ray version for this thing. I'm watching the Blu-ray versions of the 2011 Blu-ray versions of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. Um, and like I don't mind the edits. I don't think they necessarily make anything better, but I also don't mind them. And I do genuinely like the Jabba Han scene, even though the awkward "You're a wonderful human being" line is in there, which you know becomes sarcasm, but was meant to be a compliment when they shot it, because Jabba wasn't meant to be a space slug initially. He was just meant to be a humanoid person, you know. And there's a lot of moments in the film where like they set something up that doesn't have a payoff though. It's a lot of time spent on nothing really happening. Like there are multiple times where like C-3PO and R2-D2 need to hide, and then there's no real danger that comes from it. They just sort of stop hiding and it's done. You have the moment when they go into the trash compactor, and like, oh no, there's a monster in here, but it ends up being the walls closing. That's the actual danger, and I'm guessing this is because of the script being a complete mess. Like famously, the film was saved in editing by Mar. Oh God, what's her name? Is it Marcy Lucas? Oh, I'm so sorry. George Lucas' wife. I don't remember if it's Marcy. I don't remember her name. It's something like that. But like she saved it in editing by like cutting a bunch of stuff and rearranging stuff, and basically doing what she could to make the movie work. And it works really well. One of the big things that was cut, for example, is the opening was originally much longer and actually followed Luke before the events up in space. You would have Luke meet with Biggs and Tank at Mos Eisley. Actually, it probably wasn't Mos Eisley, but someplace on Tatooine. But that was all cut. Instead C-3PO and R2-D2 become the audience eyes throughout the entire film, which is really interesting because they don't do that for the other films. I actually liked that as a kid. As a kid, when I watched the films, like I was like 4 or 5 years old. I referred to the films as snälla robotarna, which basically means the robots that are kind. So the kind robots, because it was like so rare to see robots in something that weren't like villains, and I really liked that, and they felt like the main characters to me. So like that's what I referred to this movie as a kid. Um, Alec Guinness is fantastic, even though he hates the script and famously did not like the film. He's just giving it his all. He's completely selling Obi-Wan. Also, they call Obi-Wan a wizard, which, according to episode 1, wizard is Tatooine space slang for awesome or cool, because one of the kids call Anakin's pod racer, he says like, "This is so wizard, Annie." So clearly, when they say that, they mean like that really cool dude, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think that's beautiful. I don't know what else to say about this. It's a good film. It holds up. Watch it. It's still really really fun to watch. Carrie Fisher is great. Harrison Ford is great. Mark Hamill is great, but Luke is really annoying. Luke is incredibly annoying in this film. He's just constantly bickering and just complaining and pointing annoying things out. Like especially when they're on the Falcon, he's just like every line from him is a complaint, and it's great. It's annoying, but it's great. Having just seen Rogue One before it, I do appreciate how Rogue One does try and link perfectly into A New Hope. It doesn't really work because they're so different in terms of tone. But and especially when you have Vader arrive all kind of like calmly onto the ship, and like sure the stormtroopers shoot them down, but then he's like, all right, like bring the princess to me, and like I want everyone here alive. Let's take them as living prisoners, and it's like the literally previous ship you were on, you slaughtered everyone, but okay. Um, yeah, A New Hope is good. It's really good. It's still my favorite original trilogy film. Or will it be? Because I'm watching The Empire Strikes Back next. And so I finished Empire Strikes Back, which in Swedish is Rymdimperiet slår tillbaka, which basically means the space empire hits back. Yeah, they specified it as a space empire for some reason. This movie is the fan favorite one. One people consider the best Star Wars film, and I am not in agreement with that. I do like it. It's a very good movie, but it has one major issue for me, and that is that it's actually the same issue that Attack of the Clones has, but not as bad, in that they split up the main characters throughout most of the film. Luke goes to Dagobah, Han and Leia are being on the run from the Empire, and only one of those stories is like at all enjoyable to watch, and that's Luke. All the scenes with Leia and Han are annoying. I don't like the banter they have. Han is just being an asshole, and it's supposed to be charming, but it's not. It's just like random set pieces for the most part, and it's just not exciting, which is why I've been playing Pokemon instead of watching some of those scenes. But when they do get to Bespin, it gets really good though, and everything from there on out is just wonderful. It's a really good film. There's some. I don't really have much to say about this film, but I do have some things to mention that I noticed that I hadn't noticed before. Lando mispronounces Han's name. He says Han and not Han, and they have that in Solo as well. He also says Han, and that one Han actually corrects him once. He's like, it's Han, but okay. And I just figured that was a little joke to put into Solo and nothing more, but that's actually like, no, that's genuinely how Lando pronounces Han's name. He says Han, so points to Solo for that reference, because, yeah, that was actually good. So that's cool. Like that, I hadn't noticed that. Apart from that, there are some things I find interesting about this film in terms of how it was made. Now, I don't know much about cutscenes or anything like that, but there is that bit on Dagobah where Obi-Wan and Yoda are talking about Luke, and Obi-Wan says that Luke is their last hope. And then Yoda says, no, there is another. Now we all know that's referring to Leia, Luke's sister, but at the time of Empire, Leia was not set to be Luke's sister. Luke was still going to have a sister. Luke's sister was what it was referring to, from my understanding, but that sister was going to be a different character, potentially introduced in a sequel, and then that character became Leia. And I find that interesting. I like production stuff about Star Wars a lot. I find that super, just it's really interesting, and I wish we knew more about the modern movies production-wise, because we only do when they collapse, like Solo and Rogue One did, and there's a bunch of reshoots. I don't know what else to say about Empire, though. Like, the effects are beautiful. The opening scene and song half are great. The AT-AT, or AT-AT, fight is great. The fight between Luke and Vader is just stellar. Yoda is really funny. The humor is really good in Empire. It has a lot of gags. It managed to have a lot of gags without relying too much on slapstick. It does still have some slapstick, but it's good. In particular, I think C-3PO is much funnier in this film than he was in A New Hope. And you also kind of actually sympathize with C-3PO in this film, because he gets really badly treated. And like at one point he gets blown up and then put together in the wrong order, and it's like, god damn, you go through a lot of shit, don't you? Um, what else? Um, I don't know too much about the edits made to this film. Um, I'm sure there are some, but like I can't think of any right now. Uh, and yeah, it's a very straightforward film, I guess. It's not really much to say about it. That the problem with the original trilogy is that everything to say about them, especially in a positive light, has already been said a billion times, and I just don't feel like repeating what everyone else has already said. And as such, I'm just struggling to like say anything about them because it's like, yeah, I could sit here and tell you like I could go into details about the remarkable practical effects work and the puppeteering, but like, the puppeteering is great. Frank Oz's Yoda is fantastic. Um, uh, oh, something else I hadn't noticed until this time I watched it was. Oh, well, maybe I've noticed it before, but I just didn't think too much about it. But when um, when C-3PO gets blown up, um, he is in the middle of a sentence, and when he is reactivated and put together by Chewbacca, he repeats that sentence and also the subsequent reactions, like they were buffered into preparation to be said, but hadn't gotten all the way out yet. And I thought that was really funny, and I'm surprised that I didn't remember that happening. Um, that's about it. Like, I don't know. The problem is, as I mentioned, a lot of the scenes are just Leia and Han being around each other, and like you have the asteroid scene, which turns out it's actually an alien, which that's an interesting. It's a sock puppet thing, which is, I mean, it's cool, but it's ultimately like just very confusing, especially since it apparently has like flying creatures inside of it. Like, okay, let's see. What else do they do? Yeah, they hang around on like the back of a ship for a while, and I don't know. Like there's lots of back and forth between like the ships looking for the Millennium Falcon too, and it's just not very interesting. I feel like a lot of this movie could have been cut down. It would have made it the shortest Star Wars film, but I think it would have been better off for it. Um, but the Dagobah scenes are great, even if Luke is still really whining and annoying. But it's the point this time because he's not being patient, and that's the issue. Um, I really like when he goes into the den of the dark side, and I mean that line from Yoda is like, when Luke is like, "What's in there?" and he says like, "Only what you take with you." It's like, yeah, that's a great line. It's haunting. It's just good. It's just a good film. I don't think it's as good as other people say, but I think it's good. The best scene in Return of the Jedi is when C-3PO is at the Ewok village explaining what had happened so far in the series to the Ewoks and making all these like sound effects like Darth Vader lightsaber and it's just beautiful like Han Solo ticky carbonite, and it's like beautiful. That's just the best scene in the movie. 10 out of 10. Love it. Perfect. Review over. On a more serious note, I really like Return of the Jedi. It's really good. Like, it's probably the most consistently enjoyable of the original trilogy. That's not to say it's the best one. I still think A New Hope is the best one. But like, it's just really entertaining. It has a really good pace to it. It's exciting. I like that it's one long mission, basically. Like, apart from the Tatooine segment at the start, which is technically setting up the mission anyway, just getting all the people back together. It's just one mission throughout, and it's really cool. It feels like a proper conclusion in that regard. It's really, really nice. I even like the Ewoks. I even like the musical numbers like that they added in the special editions. Um, I just, it's a really fun film. It has really good jokes in it. It has really good acting in it. It has a really, really good lightsaber fight in it. Um, the Emperor is threatening, and seeing like the Force powers, the Force lightning being used for the first time was really, really cool, and it looks great still. Uh, the scene with Yoda where he's passing on is spectacular. Like, I don't understand why this is like the one of the original trilogy films that people like the least. Like, it's just so much fun. Um, but I don't know. Like, I have strange Star Wars opinions, I suppose. That's part of why it's so much fun sharing them. But yeah, Return of the Jedi. I have a few thoughts on it, having rewatched it now. First of all, the HD release is bad. Like, it looks really, really low quality for an HD release. The other two movies look great. Like, I have not seen the 2016 Blu-ray release or the 4K Disney Plus release, so maybe they fixed that now, but the 2011 version looks very, very low quality. Uh, as for the film itself, I don't know how much I have to really say about that. Like I mentioned during Empire, this is the problem with the original trilogy, is everything has already really been said about it. Um, One thing I did have in mind was during the Jabba's palace scene, people often, um, like, I really don't like the slave bikini and how much, mainly, I don't like how much it has taken over Leia's image as a character in the franchise. Like, for a while, almost all Leia merchandise was just slave bikini stuff. Even like her fucking like Star Wars Monopoly chess piece was a slave bikini version. It's like, no, especially since, like, Carrie Fisher did not like that. Um, I mean, she would frame it in an empowering way when talking about like how the ultimate scene plays out, because she ends up choking Jabba to death, but she still voiced that she did not like being objectified like that. Um, so the fact that became such a prominent uh, version of Leia to display is unfortunate. Uh, this was the introduction of the green lightsabers, which I really like. I think green lightsabers are probably like the best looking ones in the official Star Wars media. They just look so good, and they use them so, like, they really should use green lightsabers more. I was so disappointed that the new trilogy only uses blue and red ones. Like, really? Um, what else? Well, yeah, the Ewoks. I like the Ewoks. They're cute. Like, they're adorable. And I guess that's what people don't like about them. They think it's too silly and cartoony, and I'm like, it's a franchise enjoyed by kids. It's okay if it's silly. Like, I like the fact that these adorable little teddy bears are just a perfectly capable sentient species that exist. It's neat. I wish they were in more media. I mean, the stuff focusing on the Ewoks, like the Ewoks cartoon and the two Ewok movies, they're terrible. They are. But Return of the Jedi, I love them in that one. Um, I just absolutely adore them. I would love to see more Ewoks um, in modern Star Wars media. Especially like taking Ewoks out of their element would be really interesting. Like seeing an Ewok that's like raised on like what I don't know any modern Star Wars planets. What's the one that Galaxy's Edge is set on? Bethune. Bethune. That's it. Um, that could be cool. Um, there's actually less C3PO comedy in this. There's like the big moment is during the Ewok stuff. But apart from that, he is very toned down in this film, which is interesting. Um, Apart from the slave bikini, Leia's wardrobe is fantastic. Both when she's a bounty hunter at the start, and also like the dress she gets in the Ewok village. Like that's just gorgeous. One of the prettiest outfits in the entire series. I love it. Um, I have conflicting opinions on the way Vader is redeemed. Because on one hand, fictional redemption does not have to match redemption in real life. It is okay to frame redemption as something more allowable and easier in fiction because um, it's a glorified story. It's a feel good thing. You want redemption to be allowed. So I'm not necessarily saying that Vader shouldn't have been like redeemed at the end. It's more that he joined the space Nazis, and even before you consider the prequels, which add child killing among other things, but like just that fact alone, I feel his redemption, which basically is just, well, he dies, which means he's redeemed, it's just a little too simple. I wish that they would have maybe have him like turn good more piece by piece throughout the film. Maybe even like to the point where he would have been turned when Luke arrives as the Emperor. I don't know. That would have been interesting. I just don't like when redemption is treated as something very easy. I don't mind it happening. In fact, I love redemption stories, but I don't like it when it's treated to like something that just you can do with like that. Like, oh, bad guy's good now. It's actually what I'm really worried about Kylo Ren, but we'll get to that. Um, what else? Han Solo is like finally likable in this film. He's really likable in this film. He's grown so much as a character. That carbonite bath did him good. I don't know why I said bath. Like he's fun. He's charming. He's actually nice and like respects people. And you can see that he's grown as a character. It's just kind of strange that he grew as a character in between films where he didn't do anything. But still, that's nice. I would like to see that in Empire instead, but fair enough. That means that there's two movies with a likable Han Solo. It's this one and Force Awakens. Um, I guess he's okay in Solo. Like he's not really much of a character, but I've already talked about that. Who else is in this film that's worth talking about? Oh, Palpatine, of course. This was like the first big moment for Ian McDiarmid. Is Diarmid? In Star Wars, because while he first appeared in no, this was his first appearance. This was his first appearance because Empire. He didn't appear in Empire until the special editions. So yeah, and of course he sells Palpatine perfectly. Absolutely glorious performance as always. He is so intimidating while so campy at the same time. I love him, and I cannot wait to see how he's brought back in, or rather in what capacity he is used. Because I don't even know if he's actually brought back in the Rise of the Skywalker. No, the Rise of Skywalker. I hate that name. They have a line in this film when Luke and Leia are talking about Leia being Luke's sister. Luke specifically says that like the Force is strong in my family, and like the power will come to you soon, and that's part of how like the thread is connected. Like, oh, I'm your sister, and like I love how that's a line that's so clear and to the point that yes, Leia is Force sensitive. And yet people were still like, why can Leia use the Force in The Last Jedi? Like, do Star Wars fans not watch the movies? Is that a thing? Like, do they just, like I'm so confused by this. this is a common problem where like Star Wars fans that are really angry at something haven't actually paid attention to the thing they're supposedly really fond of, and it's like I don't know. I don't know. Is that it? Maybe. I think that's probably all I really have to say about it. Yeah. Return of the Jedi is good. Which means we only have the new trilogy left, the sequel trilogy, or rather, the first two films of the sequel trilogy, because The Rise of Skywalker isn't out here yet. It's not out for another. That's 13 hours, and I'll be watching it then. So